Always one of my favorite moments of the year. The first Iron Eagle Ravens game of the season is coming up this Sunday as the Ravens host the Bills on CBS. Ian and our friends Charles Davis and, of course, Evan Washburn will be on the call, and he is back with us once again on GCR. The great Iron Eagle. Ian, always appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for taking the time for us.
Hey, Glenn, I feel like it's like a rite of passage. The season officially begins when I appear on your program, and the hope is this won't be it. There will be more Ravens games to come.
I got a funny feeling that'll be the case. I was also really hoping that this would work out, that you would be able to say on Sunday they are playing baseball in Baltimore in October this year, but unfortunately does not look like that is going to be the case. Hey,
I'm not rooting for that streak, by the way. I hope you understand.
I do know.
I want that streak to end. I want that drop to end. I want it to be over and a thing of the past.
I understand that, and we have never, you know darn well, we never took it personally. We loved it. It was we ran with it for years. It was one of our favorite things. And before we get to this game, I noticed kind of a neat thing happening this weekend. Noah's got Maryland on Saturday. You've got the Ravens on Sunday. Is there any opportunity for you guys to like have a meal together or something like that?
Well, it's coming off. You are very perceptive and observant. It's coming off a week where he was actually home because he had Iowa at Rutgers. So he ended up coming back to Jersey early in the week, staying with us for the majority of the week, and then going to the hotel to get ready for his production meetings and the game later in the week. So I got to see him quite a bit. I had to leave for Thursday Night Football towards the latter part of the week for that Pittsburgh-Cleveland game, but Noah and I got some quality time in, which was really nice. With that said, no, he's got to get back out to the West Coast after the Maryland game. He's got a preseason Clippers game, which is actually taking place in Seattle as they try to get the NBA back to a city that deserves it. That's a city that never should have lost the NBA. That was such an unfortunate set of circumstances. So the hope is this is just the beginning for Seattle to getting back into the league, which my understanding is they're the next city up.
That's cool. And by the way, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I know kind of a weird way that all works out too, right? Like everybody brings up Kevin Durant and what could have been, and now you've got a lot of Kevin Durant in your life these days. So everything always comes full circle. This is a really good one, Ian, on Sunday. This is perhaps an AFC Championship game preview. Two of what we believe to be the better teams. I know right now Miami's the 3-0 team and beat both of these teams, so they're probably waving and saying, hi, we know who the best team is in the AFC, but I don't know what else. You don't really have to try all that hard in order to hype this one up before the game, do you?
Oh, no. I mean, this is obviously one of those games that pops off the page because of the quarterback play, the dynamic talents of the two guys, the way that Lamar Jackson continues to improve and evolve, which is saying something for someone who won an MVP award so early in his career. To say that he's getting better is a scary prospect for the rest of the league. Josh Allen, if I look back to his first couple of years in the NFL when I was doing those games, I always came away thinking the same thing back then, which is, man, if they could ever harness this, if they could get rid of those bad throws or forces or unnecessary mistakes, boy, they're going to have someone special. And did they ever do it? Right support in Buffalo, his ability to process as it's happening and change on the fly, and also improve and work on his game. So I give a lot of credit to both QBs for not settling for early success in their career and striving for even more. It's one of those matchups you dream of as a broadcaster. You certainly dream of as an NFL fan, whether you're connected to these two franchises in any way is irrelevant. This is the kind of game that you want to see, and you want to see how it unfolds. You're right. And it could be, if not an AFC championship preview, certainly a playoff preview. There's a very good chance they're going to see each other again.
Ian Eagle is with us here on Glenn Clark Radio. Ian, you just described something that I've been struggling with this week, because you know the affinity that we've had for Lamar for some time, and while he has faced this absurd criticism, this nonsensical criticism on a national landscape, we have all known how well Lamar Jackson can throw a football, and that there's nothing wrong with someone who's really good at running the ball, running the ball. But what we're seeing right now, that I have tried to describe what you just, it's like watching an orchestra conductor at the moment. Like the command that he has, it's almost like it doesn't matter what a defense does, because I don't know that I've ever seen someone so in control of every aspect of an offense the way that Lamar has been 3 games into this season.
It might be unprecedented, truly. And I know we could sometimes fall victim to hyperbole, but you have to call it as you see it. And the skills that he combines on the field, the respect level that he has, not just from his teammates. I think if you went around to every NFL city and you went into the locker room, more often than not, the quarterback garners respect. There are obviously occasions where it doesn't happen, and teams then have to make a decision and move on, because if you're not getting respect at that spot, then you can't win.
Right.
But when you have the respect of everybody else, the players you're playing against, the coaches you're playing against, this is the level in which Lamar Jackson has now risen to. It's hard to stop him. I'm also working the Thursday night game, Miami and Cincinnati. So you go through a bunch of notes on both games, and you start looking at what Lamar did against Miami. And you think, I don't know if you can play much better than that in that position. And that's what every team is facing when they have to deal with the likes of him. Buffalo's defense is excellent. It is banged up. They've taken some hits in major positions. And look, I am always hesitant in 3 weeks of a season to start looking at stats and take what is a small sample and extrapolate it and make a statement. Well, these guys can't stop the run. No, it's not obvious. It's 3 games, and sometimes numbers are out of whack because of those games. So I'm not ready to make those kinds of proclamations just yet about a team's defensive unit and what they do specifically against this.
Right.
You need to get to week 6, week 7, and get a real feel, because numbers will get thrown completely out of whack based on circumstances. That week 2 game with Baltimore and Miami, those numbers are going to throw your rankings completely out of whack in a 3-game format. Buffalo last week, they didn't win the game. If you look at the numbers last week, what the Buffalo Bills did against the Miami Dolphins, if you ran that as a simulation 100 times in the NFL, the team with the numbers that Buffalo put up would probably win 97, 98 times. But there are moments and flukes that take place, and the numbers didn't get them to the finish line. So it's a little wonky in the early going, as we know, but you still form opinions and you still get a sense of what teams are capable of. I think what Lamar is doing is nothing short of amazing.
Ian, I'm going to ask you this question, knowing you've done lots of Lamar games, and knowing you've thrown out Lamarvelous and Lamarkable and so many things that we've associated with over the years. Do you feel any pressure as a broadcaster when you know anything could happen? Like that you're sitting down to call a game on Sunday, and at some point you could see something impossible. You could see something that's almost indescribable. Do you feel any more pressure doing a game that involves a player like Lamar Jackson than you do obviously, you've called every team in the NFL, you've called all the great players, but it's just so different, so unique what you might get, and a highlight that might get shared for the ages and will be on Twitter forever. Is there like I know you're very good at this, so maybe you're long past that. But is there something that's different about sitting down to do a game like that?
When I think about it, Glenn, I started doing the NBA before I started doing the NFL. So my first job in the NBA was with the then New Jersey Nets, 1994. And I noticed in those first few years that the NBA would put a top 10 plays of the week out at the end of the week. And if the game you worked, and sometimes it wouldn't be your call. They would use the announcer that was doing the home team call or the visiting call, but you never quite knew. And when those calls popped up, there were guys that were nailing it, and I was really impressed. And there were guys that were in the middle of something else, and it was almost an excuse me call on a big-time highlight. And something was planted in my brain at that point that you can't miss on those moments. And look, we're all human. Things happen. I had a Thursday night game, that Pittsburgh-Cleveland game, and George Pickens had one of the most incredible grabs you will ever see. And my call was spirited, but based on the location of our booth, which is the national radio booth in the corner, based on the fact it was happening on the opposite side of the field, so the defender is blocking Pickens as he hauls it in. I make the call that he made a brilliant catch, but the fact of the matter is I could not possibly have seen him make the one-handed grab during live action. Our broadcast location would not allow it. So there are circumstances that take place that you have to be aware of. But for me, I think the NBA ended up being really good training material for that kind of mentality of don't let the highlight pass you by. Don't get stuck in your notes. Don't get stuck in the middle of some story that nobody's going to remember 20, 25 years from now. What they'll remember is the highlight. So yes, there is something about preparing mentally for the games where you have a high-level performer like Lamar Jackson. The playoffs this year in the NBA, working the games for Turner. You're doing games every other night. You're traveling the day in between. You're going from one city to another. Sometimes you're following the same series, but other times you're not. You're bopping around from series to series. You're not getting great sleep. You're not eating that. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear it. If there's a big-time highlight, it's incumbent upon you to be in the moment and try to enhance the best you can the highlight on the floor. I had one this year with Ja Morant, which was out of this world. And I just happened to hit it. Just as it was unfolding, I had the right level of excitement combined with the right verbiage that created a fun, memorable highlight. So I think that's how you have to approach it with Lamar Jackson. It's the same way you would approach it with LeBron James, or I approached it with Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan before that. When you're at that superstar level, there's a chance that athlete will accomplish something in that game, a move, a moment that you haven't seen before, and you don't want to be the broadcaster that lets that one fly by without at least getting in the batter's box and taking a good cut at it.
It's pretty significant company you just put him in with Ian Eagle. That is, Lamar Jackson, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Wow. And we've been blessed. We certainly understand it. In preparing for this, anything that jumps off the page at you and say is, hey, I am a little bit concerned. I guess the defense is probably the thing. I know we just said we don't want to overreact to 3 games, but that's the evidence we have, right? That maybe concerns you a little bit about the Ravens, just in the context of being a good team versus being a team that wants to try to win a Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, I'd say the fourth quarters have been a bit of an issue, and you don't want to be that team. You hope that that's an early storyline that goes away, that you start to finish games and take care of opponents when you have them beat. Look, this is a talented group. I don't want to compare team to team to team, different iterations of the Ravens, the team that that went to the playoffs as the 1 seed a few years ago, I thought was a really, really strong team. This is not exactly that squad. There are probably some more question marks that have popped up with this particular group. Are they going to get enough pressure on the quarterback consistently? Are they going to see improvement from some of the young guys? Is Patrick Queen going to become a consistent player at this level, someone that they can rely upon and not someone that flashes in games and provides a highlight here and there, but someone that's always doing his job and doing his job well? The secondary, I think they have a chance to be really good. They just haven't been great so far in this young season. Need to get Ronnie Stanley back. That's a huge part of the puzzle, and making sure that they're whole. The young receivers, is there enough? Is there enough there in big moments? The tight end is ridiculous. And Mark Andrews, to me, is, if he's not number one right now in the NFL, he's top 2 or 3. And that's saying a lot because it's a very talented position. J.K. Dobbins back in the mix and getting him comfortable and looking like the guy that we saw back in his rookie season of 2020. All legitimate questions and all part of a long NFL season, but you look around the league, Baltimore's in really good shape. They have a nice team. I think they know what they are, but they have to go out and do it.
Yep.
The way this division is set up, too, it's there. It's there for them to go out and win. Cincinnati is good. They, I think, will be fine when the smoke clears, but they don't have the mystique of a defending conference champion. They're not at that level where you think of them in that light. That means the division is open to go out and be won by Baltimore to secure a playoff spot and maybe dictate a bit that the postseason could go through their place, which is really important.
There's no doubt. No doubt, and obviously it's the one thing that people can still fairly poke a hole in when it comes to Lamar Jackson, because there's nothing else left to poke a hole in. But the lack of playoff success is that one still thing that he has to accomplish.
Yep.
Ian Eagle, I tell you, man, and I mean this, it's not just the friendship, but all those years ago when I was asked to come off the beat and work in studio on game days, I had no idea that the joy that I was about to have for the next decade and a half, as I'll be doing post-game for 105.7 The Fan this week, was that I get to spend my Sundays watching football with guys like you and Kevin Harlan calling games. So we get spoiled. I no offense to your colleagues or your friends I know at Fox, but the fact that we get to hang out with you guys on Sunday afternoons, it makes it all that much more joyous for us and makes us enjoy watching football that much more. Can't wait for this Sunday, 1 o'clock on CBS with you, Charles, and Evan, Ravens-Bills. And every time I get to spend time with you, I hope you know how much it means to me, Ian Eagle. I appreciate you as always, sir.
Oh, Glenn, that means a lot, and I'm sure Kevin would feel the same way. It's a lot of fun going into Baltimore to call those games. Even before Lamar was there, I just enjoyed the environment, always enjoyed that vibe of doing games in that stadium. And obviously with Lamar, it's been taken to another level because he's often the lead story or one of the lead stories because of what he does on Sundays. This one really should be a lot of fun. I think Buffalo is a tremendous team, and despite their injuries, I would expect them to fight through it.
Yep.
With that said, this is one of those early season litmus tests that you like to get a sense of where these franchises are at. They're definitely looking to bounce back after last week. That was a disappointing loss considering everything that they did out there. They just couldn't turn it into points consistently. And for Miami, it gives them fuel. The Dolphins are feeling good about themselves. They've got an interesting, unique head coach who has a very deep connection with his players. And that can carry you in this league. When there's belief that your head guy is putting you in the best position to succeed, that can lead to lots of wins. And that's why I think Miami is riding high right now. They just have really good energy inside their facility.
I don't know what else to say, man. I just want to say thank you as always. That's all I can do. Thank you as always. Can't wait for Sunday. And I have no doubt that we'll be talking again at some point down the road this season.
Yeah, sounds great. Glenn, always good to talk to you, bud.